Hi, Hike and Jim here, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Stoving. The stove you see on the table in front of you is an MSR Vapore Jet Capillary Force Vaporizer stove. This is a prototype, a military prototype. It was never released, the military never adopted it, put it that way, and never released to the civilian world either. I wanted to talk about fueling, and I wanted to talk about how to fire it up. So, just real quickly, on the bottom of the stove, there is a little tank lid attached by a chain. It's a very smart idea to have a chain attached to attach the tank lid, and a little gasket on there, and just kind of a nice design. I don't know if you can see it, but it's all Lexan, and so I think you can even probably see the fuel sloshing around in there. See the fuel sloshing and reflecting some light back. If I put my hand over here, see how it goes dark? So that's because that's a see-through Lexan tank. It's similar material to what you would have from an Nalgene bottle. So take the tank and just pour in some kerosene. Basically, the military uses JP8, so the stove is designed to run on JP8, but to you and I in the civilian world, JP8 is kerosene. So I'm just pouring in some kerosene. And then I take the cap and screw it back in here. If I can get the, there's a little, there it is. You have to get it onto a little knob, and then it tightens down, and then the handle locks in place. Now, the other thing you'll see over here, there's a replacement capillary force vaporizer here. So if you need to do maintenance, what you do is you pull off the rubber backing of the stove, and now you can probably even see more just how that is Lexan. You can probably see the fuel sloshing around in there. See my hand through it. It's see-through. It's basically plastic. So it's a plastic tank that's, I suppose, to lighten it up, and the rest of the stove is bonded to the Lexan tank. Anyway, you pull off this nice rubbery kind of ring here, which has a really nice set of kind of feet on it, which keeps the stove from sliding. And over here you have the spare capillary force vaporizer. What you do is you just pull that little tab out, and then the spare vaporizer is here in this little small container. I'm not going to go through the whole maintenance procedure right now, but that's what you would do. And then after you're done, the ring fits back onto the base of the stove, and it just presses into place, like so. Okay, now that I've got the, there we go, base back on. Oh, no. Good thing I'm demonstrating how easy this is to do. Well, I've got a little catch there. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I guess I've turned it to the wrong angle or something. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've got this control handle here. I'm going to flip up the flame spreader. Well, I guess I could just do it with my finger just as easily. And the way you light the stove is you've got 4 wicks down here in the burner assembly, and the directions state that you should use a match, but I find that a torch lighter, here's a torch type lighter, works pretty well. And once you get one wick lit, and now I've got one wick lit, then you can use that wick tilting it this direction to light the next wick, God willing. Well, good. Alright, that wick's being bulky, so I'll try a different wick. There we go. I've got several of the wicks lit now. I've got all 4 wicks lit now. And I want you to just observe the color and shape of the flame and any sound that you hear, because basically right now the stove is silent and you have essentially a candle flame. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the light and let's watch the stove go through its priming sequence. Now if you listen, you should be able to hear a little bit of a roar now. Notice the flame's characteristics are changing a little bit. It's getting a little shorter. The base of the flame is turning blue. It's actually blue under the spreader plate. I can just barely see it in the monitor. So what's happening is we've got a capillary force vaporizer. It's built into the bottom of the burner, and what that does is as there's heat, and the priming causes there to be heat, as there's a heat differential between the tank and the burner, it starts conducting kerosene, or JP8, basically the same thing, from the tank up into the burner. As it does that, it burns, as it conducts the kerosene up, it vaporizes it. So the vaporized kerosene is what's burning. Liquid kerosene is actually pretty difficult to burn. That yellow flame you saw was kind of the liquid kerosene burning. And the hotter it gets, the more it vaporizes, and the more it vaporizes, the hotter it gets. And so you get a feedback loop, and eventually you get this, which is a nice blue flame, typical of a stove. And that's a pretty good hot flame, and yeah, my hands are cold because it's a cold evening, and it's got some good heat output. No problem with boiling water. There is no flame control or flame adjustment though, so you can't turn it up or down. It just, whatever flame you've got is what you've got. Okay, well that's the priming and lighting sequence. Now I'll go ahead and shut it off. Remember that control lever that I was talking about earlier? Turn the stove around a little bit. Here's the control lever right here. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's just a little lever right there, and you just take it and go, and that's it. And then you could probably still see vapor coming out. That vapor is vaporized kerosene. And if I hit it again with the lighter real quick, it's still hot, so it's still vaporizing kerosene. And it sometimes, you know, it's especially on a cold night like tonight, it cools down enough where it has to take a minute to get back to full heat. But generally you can relight it pretty quick if it for some reason goes out. I have had it go out in fairly high winds on an exposed ridge at 8,000 feet one time. So, but anyway, now it's back to full force, and that's the MSR Capillary Force Vaporizer stove. And I'm Hikin' Jim. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Adventures in Stoving.